At brunch, my mom smirked, telling me, "You're fortunate we even let you join us. A little pity goes a long way." My aunt took a sip of her mimosa and added, "Let him feel special." I simply smiled, finished my coffee, and didn't say a word. That night, I called my lawyer, put the family cabin up for sale, and removed myself from the shared credit pool. 2 weeks later, they woke up to a flurry of notices and cancellations, and their group chat was a sea of panic. My brother called furious the second I stepped through the door. Jack laughed, saying I looked like I'd just stumbled out of a donation bin. My mom didn't even look at me, instead remarking that I must have finally remembered what a razor was. My aunt just smiled behind her mimosa as if she were watching a show. They didn't invite me to brunch because they missed me. They invited me because they needed a target. The dining room looked straight out of a magazine, with elegant napkins, champagne flutes, and some expensive candle burning in the corner. I sat down in the only empty spot, the one without a name. Card Jack lifted his glass and said something about me finally earning a place at the grown-ups table. I didn't react. I was used to it. I poured myself coffee and tuned out most of their conversation. They gossiped about relatives I hadn't seen in years, about Jack's promotion, his new car, and how everyone was so proud of him. I just nodded and ate my eggs when appropriate. It was always like this. I showed up, stayed quiet, and paid. When they forgot their wallets, then, just as I was reaching for the last piece of toast. My mom turned to me with that familiar smirk. "You're lucky we even include you," she said. Pity goes a long way. My aunt took a sip of her drink and chimed in. "Let him feel special." I didn't even flinch. Finished my coffee, smiled, and said nothing. That night, I opened my laptop and didn't hesitate. I emailed my lawyer and pulled the paperwork for the family cabin from the fireproof box in my closet. They always called it our little getaway, but it wasn't theirs. It was mine. My name was on the deed, and it was my credit that saved it. When my dad nearly lost it in 2009, they treated it like their summer retreat. But I paid the taxes and maintenance. They never even offered to help. Then I logged into our shared credit pool, the one I had established with my excellent credit score to manage large family expenses. I was the anchor, the one they relied on. I've revoked every permission, removed every link to my accounts, and canceled all the automated payments. I didn't tell anyone. I just waited. 2 weeks later, the panic began. First, Jack's card was declined while he was trying to pay for bottle service. Then, the family group chat blew up. My mom asked why her utility payment bounced. My dad mentioned the cabin's insurance had lapsed. Then came the cable, the lawn service, the cleaning lady, and the vacation rental. They tried calling, but I didn't answer. Jack finally got through. He immediately started yelling, saying I'd embarrassed him in front of his friends and that I was ruining everything just because I couldn't take a joke. He demanded I fix it. I hung up. My mom texted at midnight asking if I was okay. I didn't reply. I just sat there remembering how they had laughed that morning, how easily they made me the punchline, how they needed me to carry everything but never once treated me like I mattered. I'd been their safety net for years. Now they would find out what it was like without one. After Jack's little tantrum on the phone, everything went quiet. No calls, no texts, nothing. The group chat was silent. It's not even one of those fake friendly memes my mom usually sends to smooth things over. Just silence. I think they thought I would cave, that I'd feel bad for overreacting, that I'd come, crawling back with an apology for misinterpreting their jokes. That was their usual strategy, but this time, I didn't take the bait. Instead, I drove up to the cabin early one morning, with the fog still clinging to the trees. I hadn't been there in over a year, but it all looked the same. The chipped porch, railing the rust on the mailbox, the front steps sagging a little more than before. I stood in the middle of the living room and took it all in the couch I bought. The photos I printed and hung, the firewood I chopped that no one else ever bothered to replace. It was my cabin in every way that counted. That afternoon, I called my lawyer and told him I was ready to move forward with the listing quietly and with only my name attached. Said it wouldn't take long. 2 days later, my dad showed up. He didn't text or call, just knocked like nothing had happened, as if he hadn't spent the last 2 decades treating me like a background character in my own family. He held a six-pack and said he thought we should talk. I opened the door, looked him in the eye, and told him I was busy. Then I closed it. He stood there for a few more seconds before he left. That night, I went deeper. I logged into every shared account they had linked to me over the years, the phone plan Jack had been on for 6 years without ever paying a dime. The family Netflix, the Spotify account, all of it. I canceled everything, removed all their access, changed passwords, and locked it all down. They didn't even know half of the services were under my name until they started to disappear. By Monday morning, the panic had begun. My mom texted first, something vague about the Wi-Fi not working, then asked if I'd changed something. No question marks, just passive aggression veiled in confusion. An hour later, she sent another message. Was this about what I said at brunch? I was just joking. Don't be so sensitive. Then came the crying emoji, followed by a heart. Jack texted too. He said I was being immature and blowing things out of proportion. Said we were family and family forgives. But forgiveness had always been a one-way street. That night, I finally responded. I told them I had removed all my financial ties and would no longer be their fallback plan. If they needed something fixed, they could call someone else. I reminded them of the $4,000 they still owed me from the previous year money I gave them when Jack's insurance scam nearly caught up with him. They begged me not to let him get arrested and promised it was temporary, a month at most. That was 16 months ago. I told them I wanted it back, $4,000, no interest, no wiggle room, due at the end of the month. I gave them a deadline and nothing more. By the next morning, I had 6 missed calls from my mom, 2 from my dad, and 3 voicemails from Jack. He had gone from yelling to pleading in the span of 2 minutes. He said he couldn't hang out with his friends because his cards weren't working and that his girlfriend was angry. He said it wasn't fair. None of it mattered. On Wednesday, I emailed them a spreadsheet with one line, outstanding balance, $4,000, due July 31st. No extensions, no discussions, no exceptions. My mom called that night crying. She said she felt like I was tearing the family apart, that they never meant to hurt me, that they were just joking, and I was always so sensitive. I reminded her how Jack used to joke about me being adopted. How she used to say I should have been a lawyer so I could finally contribute. Something real. And how my dad once said after a bad Thanksgiving that it was a shame all that therapy didn't make me less difficult to be around. None of them had ever apologized, but now that they needed something, now they were sorry. I didn't yell or curse. I simply told her what I should have told them years ago. You don't get to treat me like an afterthought and still expect me to show up when things fall apart. Then I hung up. I don't think I've ever felt more clear in my life. By the end of the week, they realized I was serious. The shift in tone was immediate. Jack stopped yelling. My dad stopped pretending he didn't care. My mom started calling every day like we were best friends. Suddenly, I was the most important person in the family again. It was pathetic. She called Tuesday morning, leaving a voicemail about the broken washing machine and how she didn't know how to schedule a repair without my help. On Wednesday, it was the water bill. Apparently, they'd forgotten how to log in since I'd managed it for years. Thursday, she sent a photo of Jack next to his car with the hood open, saying I always knew how to figure these things out. They didn't say sorry or offer to pay me back. They just wanted everything to go back to normal. That same evening, I got a message from my aunt, the same one who had smirked during brunch as if she were watching a live sitcom. She said the whole thing had gone too far, and that I needed to think about what kind of woman I wanted to be. Claiming I was hurting people who loved me, I almost laughed. They were all hurting now, and it didn't even take much. Just a few logins, a few documents, a few digital snips to cut every cord they had tied around my neck. I hadn't yelled, lashed out, or burned anything down. I just stopped giving, and that was enough to unravel everything. I got the $4,000 on Friday, wired from my dad's account with a 2-word note. We're square. They thought that was the end of it, that settling the debt would buy them a clean slate. It didn't. That same night, I submitted the final documents for the cabin listing. It was going on the market the following week. I didn't tell anyone. On Saturday, Jack tried again. Showed up at my place with 2 six-packs and some nonsense about siblings fixing things. He said he missed how things used to be and that it was stupid we were fighting over a couple of jokes. I let him ramble on the porch until he realized I wasn't going to respond. Then he stood up, tried to make it about me again, calling me bitter, dramatic, and impossible to deal with. I closed the door while he was mid-sentence. Later that night, I got a final text from him saying he hoped I enjoyed being alone and that the rest of the family was moving on without me. They weren't. I could see it in the way they kept circling. My mom dropped passive-aggressive messages about how we all make mistakes. My dad asked if I'd reconsider handling the property taxes just one last time. Jack tried to act like nothing had happened when he needed a ride to pick up his car. I ignored all of it. The more they tried to pretend nothing had changed, the more obvious it was how much had they needed. Me not because they loved me, but because they had built their lives on the idea that I would always be there. Quiet, reliable, invisible. But I wasn't that person anymore. And they weren't ready for what was coming next. The listing went live on a Monday morning. I watched it happen from my kitchen table with a coffee in hand, barely blinking as the photo of the cabin appeared online. Wide porch, green shutters, and surrounding maple trees. It's the same place where I had spent countless weekends cleaning, fixing, and mowing, while everyone else just showed up with coolers and walked in like they owned it. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. I didn't even have to look. I knew. My mom called 4 times before I silenced it. Then came the group chat. My aunt was the first to notice. She sent a screenshot of the listing and added, "What is this?" As if she hadn't sat there smirking when I was humiliated over pancakes. My mom chimed in with, "You can't be serious," followed by a crying emoji. It wasn't until one of her old church friends messaged her a woman, I barely remembered that she really lost it. Apparently, the woman saw the listing on Facebook and assumed my mom was downsizing. When she replied that she knew nothing about it, the woman asked if everything was okay and whether they needed help. That's what sent her spiraling. The next voicemail she left me was almost unintelligible. Between crying and gasping, she said I was tearing the family apart, acting like a stranger, that people were asking questions. And she didn't know what to say. I didn't reply. That night, my dad sent me a single text, "Call me." I didn't. Instead, I went to bed and slept better than I had in weeks. The next day, Jack went into full meltdown mode. He blew up the group chat with screenshot after screenshot. The listing, the price, the agent's contact. And a message from one of his friends asking if they could rent it for a guy's trip. He tagged me with 6 question marks, then sent another message a few hours later calling me a snake. He said I had no right and that I was selfish, vindictive, and unstable. I blocked him. I blocked them all: phone, email, social media. I knew what was coming next. The guilt trip, the emotional blackmail, the "you've changed" speeches. And I was right. On Thursday, they showed up. My mom, my dad, and unexpectedly, Jack's girlfriend, Amanda. That stopped me. I opened the door slightly. Amanda stepped forward. She said she wasn't there for Jack and hadn't even told him she was coming. She wanted to talk, just me and her. She said she had seen the listing and didn't believe it at first. Jack had always told her the cabin was his, that he had taken it over after Dad retired, that he handled the expenses and taxes, that it was his family's legacy and he was keeping it alive. Then, the week before, she was looking for a charger. in his desk and found the original deed. My name, my payments, my signature. She confronted him and everything unraveled, every exaggeration, every story he told to make himself look like the golden son. She said she was done with him and just thought I deserved to know. Then she apologized and walked away. I looked at my parents. They just stood there, unsure of what to say. I told them I had already arranged the payout. They would get their $20,000. And Jack would get nothing. My dad tried to speak, saying something about betrayal and how things like this should be discussed as a family. I told him it had been discussed for years. They just weren't listening. I closed the door. That night, I got the confirmation email. Offer accepted, sale in process, closing in 3 weeks. The cabin was gone, just like that. Right. And I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. The cabin officially sold on a Thursday morning. I watched the email come in while I was on a Zoom call at work. It was a short message from the title company confirming the transfer and deposit. That was it. Just a few lines of legalese and a number that hit my bank account 30 minutes later. It was strange how quiet the moment was considering what it represented. I closed the email, walked into the kitchen, made coffee, and sent a single wire transfer, $20,000 straight to my parents' joint account. I didn't include a message. I figured they'd figure it out, and if they didn't, even better. It only took an hour. My mom called first. I let it ring. Then came a second call, then a third, then a string of messages, each one more unhinged than the last. She said I couldn't be serious, that the cabin wasn't just a property but part of the family. She said she was going to call the realtor and get her lawyer involved. There was no lawyer. At 4:32 p.m., my dad texted me, "We need to talk. You're making a mistake." Ah! I sent him a one-line reply. "The sale is complete. You've been paid." I knew the group chat would light up next. I always did damage control as a team. Sure enough, by dinner, it was a mess. My aunt chimed in first. The same one who told me to let him feel special while sipping her mimosa like she was judging a wine contest. She said I was acting out, that this wasn't me, and that I was better than this. Then Jack jumped in. Started with you. Can't be serious, and spiraled from there. Screenshots, messages from his friends, something about how they were planning a ski weekend next month and how I had made him look like a liar. He said I ruined everything because I couldn't handle being the least successful person at brunch. I didn't say anything. I waited until the morning, and then I played my final card. Cabin sold. Title transferred. Your share of $20,000 has been paid. Do not contact me about it again. It's also effective immediately. I've permanently revoked my consent from the Family Credit Fund. The bank has been notified. Access is removed. You are not authorized to use my name or score for anything ever again. Sent it. Left the chat and turned off my phone. What followed was exactly what I expected, except for one part I didn't see coming. Jack didn't call that night or the next day. But on Sunday afternoon, someone buzzed at my door. 'Twas Jack, and he looked like hell. Dark circles, a wrinkled shirt, hands in his pockets like he didn't know what to do with them. He didn't yell or act fake. He just said he was screwed. He said Amanda was gone. He couldn't get approved for a new lease, and all his cool friends had stopped answering his messages. He said he needed my help. Not wanted, it needed it. He said we were still family, still siblings, that maybe we didn't always get along, but we had to look out for each other. I asked him where that idea was during all those years he let me clean up his messes. He didn't answer. I told him I wasn't here to clean up anymore. He could either learn how to stand on his own or keep falling. I told him I didn't hate him, but I wasn't going to save him. Then I told him something he'd never heard before. You don't get to treat people like trash and still expect their loyalty. He looked at me for a long second, then nodded once and walked away. I watched him leave and, for the first time, I didn't feel angry. Just done. The accounts were closed, the money was wired, the property was gone. Everything they used to keep me tangled was severed, and it was quiet. Almost too quiet. It's been just over 3 months since I sold the cabin, closed the credit, accounts, and cut the wires tethering me to people who only knew how to take. No one has called or shown up. Not even a forwarded meme from my aunt, and she used to send those like clockwork. Nothing. Absolute silence. And most days, I love it. My apartment feels bigger and cleaner now. The air is lighter. I stopped waking up with that low-level anxiety buzzing in my chest, wondering which emergency I'd have to fix that day. I've picked up hobbies again, reading and cooking real food. I even took a solo trip to Colorado, no itinerary, just drove. Through the mountains with the windows down and no one asking where I was or what I was doing, but freedom, I've learned, comes with echoes. Not regrets. I wouldn't change a thing, but echoes of what could have been if they had been different people, if I had a different kind of family. One that knew how to give, one that didn't turn love into a transaction. I kept the money of course, Jack never reached out again for anything. My parents didn't send a thank you for the $20,000 I wired. Instead, I checked the account it went into. I still had access when it landed. They logged in 10 minutes after the deposit cleared, moved the money, and changed the password. That was it, as if it were a refund. A couple of weeks later, I got an email from Jack. No subject, just one line. You stopped, and I finally felt it. I don't expect anything. I just get it now. I read it twice, then archived it. Not because I didn't believe Hemet was the first thing he'd said in years that sounded like it came from a real place, but because there was nothing else to say, not yet. Maybe not ever. The funny part is, I think he actually thought that was enough. That understanding the damage was the same thing as repairing it, but it's not. Knowing you ruined something doesn't make it whole again. I've been seeing Dylan, our younger cousin, more often now. He's only 16, but he's sharp, quiet, and observant. He never laughed when Jack and my mom made me the joke. I noticed that even back then, he's not like the rest of them. At least, not yet. So I pick him up sometimes, take him to the batting cages, or grab burgers. I don't talk about the family much. I don't need to. He knows. I'm not trying to save him. I'm just making sure he knows someone's on his side if he ever needs to walk away. As for my parents, I don't think they'll reach out again. Not because they've let go of the grudge, but because they don't know how to deal with a version of me that doesn't need them anymore. They don't know how to reach someone they can't manipulate, guilt, or shame. And now they never will. Are still nights where I stare at the ceiling and think about the day I walked into that brunch, the look on Jack's face when I sat down, my mom's smirk, and how they all thought I'd never fight back. They were so sure of it. That's what sticks with me the most, not their cruelty, but their certainty that I would take it forever. And now that I've walked away, they're still waiting for me to come back, to cool off, to miss them enough to undo it all. But I won't. One, not in a movie-ending way, not with fanfare or revenge montages. Just control, silence, and peace. It's not as loud as they think a win should be, but it's mine. And that's enough for now. It's been almost a year since that brunch. A year since I sold the cabin. Since I wired the money. Since I told them in no uncertain terms that they were done using me, and they stayed gone. Jack never emailed again. My parents didn't call. No birthday texts, no holiday cards, not even a passive-aggressive Christmas forwarded message. At first, it was eerie. Now, it's routine. I still see Dylan sometimes. He's graduating this year. We grabbed burgers last week. And out of nowhere, he said, they still bring you up at every gathering, right? I didn't ask what they said. I didn't want to know. He looked at me like he wanted to ask something else, then just said, I get it. That was enough. I live quieter now, more deliberately. I bought a small place 2 hours outside the city. It's not fancy, but it's mine. No shared accounts, no cosign loans, no one holding anything over my head. It's just space, clean air, and peace I had to carve out by burning down a piece of my past. Last week, found something weird though. A postcard. No return address, just a photo of a lake at sunset. On the back, in small handwriting, "We should have done better. You deserve better." No name, no signature. It could have been from any of them or none of them. I put it in a drawer. I didn't throw it out, but I didn't reply. Some doors don't close all at once. Some take years, but I'm not opening it.